own brother had ever been at the time. And to find out that he died and I didn't know about it really hurt. And I didn't know, and I didn't get to go and like say my final goodbyes. Hurt a lot. And then after that, during Thanksgiving break, my aunt had hip problems and she was on pills for that, like pain pills and stuff. And she had a chance of being diagnosed with OCPOD or something, whatever that thing is called when you're a smoker, which could lead to lung cancer. We had Thanksgiving late because of everybody's schedules and stuff like that, and my aunt and her husband or her fiance were fighting at the time, so I was sleeping in their room and he was sleeping out in the living room with his kids. And the night before we had Thanksgiving dinner, I stayed in there with her. She fell asleep around midnight, and I stayed up because she was breathing weird. And I was playing games on my computer and watching TV, just Comedy Central, just trying to stay awake just to make sure she was okay. And then I fell asleep around 5 a.m. and she was still breathing weird, but I was like, alright, if she's, made it 5 hours, she'll be fine. And if it gets any worse, I'm sure I'll hear it because I'm a very, very, very light sleeper when I'm next to someone. And especially if they're sick. And her phone went off around 8 o'clock in the morning. And she didn't answer it, and I was just like, alright, she's just really asleep, and her phone was on vibrate. And so I looked at it, and it was my cousin's girlfriend calling to ask what she wanted her to bring. And I didn't answer it. I just kind of, ignored it because I didn't really want to talk to anybody because I was still like half asleep. And I kind of looked over at my aunt, and I just was checking on her a little bit, and she was breathing, she was fine, she was snoring, which was annoying, but she was still alive. And then my cousin came in around 11 to ask her how to make banana pudding with the wafers underneath it. And she wouldn't wake up. And then he came over and realized she was gone. She had died between 8ish and 11. And I didn't know. And I was freaking out because, everybody's like, I'm the type of person that when someone dies, I hide everything. And so I was trying to be strong for everybody. But on the inside, I was freaking out. So I walk over to her best friend's house, which is just across, like, here's her house, and here's her best friend, and here's her best friends over here, and then my brother was here, and there's a road in between them. So I walk over to tell her. And then I went to get my brother. And the whole time I'm trying to be as calm as I possibly can be. But I couldn't. And then my uncle told me to call the ambulance, and I'm freaking out because I don't know the address, like the full address. And I'm calling and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm trying to do all this stuff. And I'm trying not to break down and cry and just be an adult almost, because I was forced to grow up after my mom got sick. I took so many different responsibilities. I had to hide my emotions so that I could take care of her, take care of myself and our animals and my brother. And after they got there, and we went to the hospital and everything. And when we got back to the house, I kind of just sat down and wrapped myself in one of my blankets, and I leaned against the couch, and I lost everything. And my cousin had a dog named Ellie, and she was the sweetest pit bull ever. she comes up to me and she kind of sits in front of me and pushes her way in between my legs and just puts her head on my shoulder, and I hugged her and I cried. And no one knew really what to do because no one had ever seen me break down in my family like that because I kept it all cool since my mom died. I hid everything. I didn't tell anybody what was going on. And after that, that's when I really started to self-harm a lot. Um I started on my, forearms like people normally start. And then people started to notice, so I stopped for a while. And uh, I used the cocoa or the cocoa butter, yeah, the cocoa butter to remove them so you can't see them anymore. And then I'll show the picture of the one I'm about to talk about on the screen over here. Um, I did the one that you're gonna see at a point in time where I had been with someone for a while and I really cared about them, and then someone else came into my life, and then they had been there since I'd moved to my house that I was living at. I've known them since 6th grade, and stuff happened between us, and I ended up doing things. I didn't have sex with them or anything, but I ended up pretty much cheating on the person that I had been with. And that night I lost my my walls broke that I had built, my bottles broke that I had all my emotions stored in, and I cut a few times on my wrist. And then I was like, I didn't want to do long ways like this because I knew that that would kill me. And so I had been using a very, very small blade that's known as a butterfly blade. It is a very, very, very thin blade. And I used the edge and I just kind of quickly did it. And it opened up really badly and then it really started to bleed. And I really didn't want it to stop. I just wanted it to keep going and going until I ended up dying. But luckily for me, my best friend, Caden, had been texting me, and he knew what was happening. And he said, please don't do anything, because I love you, and I need you to be there for me. And so, I, um, I quickly got something to wrap my arm in, and I applied a lot of pressure, and, I stopped the bleeding, and it slowly started to heal. And then I should have went to the hospital and gotten stitches, but I didn't because I didn't want anybody to know. I mean, my friend Kaden knew, and a few other people knew, but I didn't want to go to the hospital to get the stitches because I knew they'd ask questions. And at the time, I wasn't ready to admit that I needed help from someone. It wasn't until a few months later that I went to the hospital and I wanted to be admitted so that I could get help. Because being that close to my life, being at the end, I realized that's not what they would have wanted for me. I realized it's not what my aunt, my uncles, Travis, my mom would have wanted for me to end my life like that. And so I didn't end up getting admitted because by the time that they had gotten everything sorted out, I had calmed down. But I did end up getting more counseling, and that helped. And then I started cutting on my legs so that people wouldn't notice. And They were never bad, but they were still there, and people that like know me and know that I cut, they're like, "Oh, you do it for attention. You do it for this," and I'm like, I sit there and I'm like, "No, I do it because it's the only thing that makes me feel like I'm alive." Because with how I am, since everything I've been through, I feel dead inside, and cutting makes me feel like I'm still alive. I don't know how to explain it, but I still struggle with all of this. I still struggle with cutting. I still struggle with depression. I still struggle with wanting to end my life, but I haven't made any attempts to do that since I did the really bad one, which I guess I could show you guys. I don't know if you this is the one that almost ended me. And there's a lot of built up dead tissue in there, so it hurts a lot sometimes, like if I bump it wrong, if I like stretch my arm the wrong way, or if the skin gets stretched, it hurts really badly. But there'll be a better picture of it. I'll have her put it up twice for me. But I just want you guys to know that yes, I get life is hard. I get that things don't always go the way you want them to, and I get that people are mean. I get all that. But death isn't the answer for anybody. I don't want to tell you guys not to cut because I still do it myself. But if you do, just don't do it really bad. Don't don't think that killing yourself is the answer to anything, because all it's going to do is cause more pain for other people, and it's going to cause more pain for others and yourself, because I mean, I know when I cut and I was sitting there and I was bleeding so badly that it hurt, and I was sick for a few weeks afterwards. I was very weak. I got sick easily. And it's not the way to go. Killing yourself, it doesn't really solve any issues. I guess it just kind of makes you another suicide in the book of suicides. And I mean, that sounds horrible, but it's true. I mean, you're not going to change people's minds about bullying or anything like that by killing yourself. I mean, think about how many people have done it already. They didn't change anything. Sure, schools have cracked down on bullying, but it still happens. But I guess what I'm saying is it may feel like it's not going to get better. And I mean, it can, because I used to think there was no hope for me. There was no one who was going to ever want me because of all my scars, all of my problems, all of my insecurities, and all of the things that I deal with on a daily basis. And I used to think there was going to be no family for me, no one for me to turn to when I needed help or when I needed someone to cry on. And then my fiance, who I love so much, asked me to marry him, and his family kind of took me in. And I mean, I know they're not my family, but they pretty much are now. I'm sorry, some of this stuff is very hard for me to talk about. But it does get better. It may not get better as quickly as you want it to, but I can tell you it does get better. There are people out there who love you, who care about you, and I can't stress that enough, because my cousin, when he overdosed, it was ruled a suicide. The police said that he committed suicide with his brother. And if that's true, it didn't get better for anybody else. So please, if this video helps, then I just want to say I may not know you personally. I may not talk to you. I may not know who you are. But I care about you. And I want you to keep living because there's someone out there who may be very close to you who would be severely depressed and severely hurt if you ended up dying. Please just remember that. And thank you for watching. I opened up a lot in this video. I cried a lot, and I'm sorry it is going to be so long. But there are people out there. They love you, they care about you, they want you to keep living. Please remember that. There's always going to be someone on your side, even if they won't say it out loud. I will right now. I care about you. I want you to keep living. You are meaningful. You have a purpose in life.